Sounds so long. Didn't get it. Do you want to get this? Just bottled or whatever.
All right, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 22nd, 2024 public hearing, followed by the regular council meeting for the Village of Lytton. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to please turn off your videos, mute your microphones, and allow council to begin the proceedings. Just to let you know, we're all being recorded and broadcasted on the Village of Lytton YouTube channel. If anyone is looking for a video recording of this meeting or a past meeting, you can go to the Village YouTube channel and watch it there. Thank you, Your Worship. You may call the meeting to order.
Thank you. So I call this public meeting to order at 7 o'clock. I want to recognize that this meeting and our following regular council meeting is taking place on the traditional ancestral unceded territory of the Ntlaka'ka people. Before we begin this public meeting tonight, I just want to mention that here at the council table, we have all of council, as well as CAO Burkett and Jim McDonald. This public hearing is convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act to allow the public to make representation to council respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaws, Village of Lytton Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 760, 2024, and Village of Lytton Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 761, 2024. Members of council may ask questions following the presentation by staff. However, the function of the council at a public hearing is to listen rather than debate the merits of the proposed bylaws. Everyone present shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaws. No one will be discouraged or prevented from making their views known. However, it's important that remarks be restricted to matters contained in the proposed bylaws. We'll start the public hearing with a presentation by staff on the first bylaw for consideration, which is Village of Lytton Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 760, 2024. As stated in the notice of public hearing, Village of Lytton Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 760, 2024 is proposed to change the official community plan land use designation of 30 Main Street from low density residential to public institutional. I'm going to pass it over to Corey Gain to explain the bylaw. Corey? Corey, we can't hear you. Looks like she's muted.
There we go.
There you are.
I apologize. Can you see my slides though?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. I thought, you see, I got one thing right and the other one missed. Oh, well, here we are this evening. I had very brief comments. Essentially, we want to note that the subject property is just north of the existing public works yard. Expansion will improve the operational capabilities of the overall site. So what we're doing is looking at changing both the official community plan and zoning designations of the subject property from the previous residential classification to a public and institutional classification. This is what the official community plan map looks like. You can see that it is currently designated low density residential, and it will be changed to public and institutional. So it will become blue. Similarly, the zoning map is currently R1 low density residential. It will be changed to P1 public. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. So we'll now open the floor for submissions from the public. If you're present in the parish hall and wish to speak, ensure you have signed in. We will go in order. If you are online, please use the raise hand function. under React at the bottom of your screen. Is there anyone in the parish hall here who would like to speak to this bylaw?
Right across it.
No, and so
I'm
we,
okay with it.
thank you. So we have no one here. So I'm going to turn it over to CO Storoshenko to see if there's anybody online.
There is nobody online. Oh,
Okay,
actually, there
and-
is one person. I'll just confirm that the one person online, do they wish to speak just to use the raise hand function? No, no one's done raise hand.
And thank you. And were there any written submissions?
There was nothing received. No.
Okay, so thank you. So what I would like then is to move on to the second bylaw for consideration, which is the Village of Lytton zoning amendment bylaw number 761, 2024. As stated in the notice of public hearing, Village of Lytton zoning amendment bylaw number 761, 2024 is proposed to change the zoning designation at 30 Main Street from low density residential zone to public zone P1. And Corey, I'm wondering if you explained it earlier or if you have an explanation.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I covered both bylaws in the first presentation.
That's what I thought. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, so we're going again, if there's anybody in the hall here who would like to speak to that, but I don't believe so. And CO Storoshenko, if there's anybody online that wishes to. Yet.
No, I don't see anyone with the raised hand.
All right, and was there any written submissions?
No, there were no submissions.
No, okay, so we will, please, can I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor McCann, seconder, Lightfoot. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, we're going to move now on to the regular council meeting. Right here. I am going to call this regular council meeting of Tuesday, October 27th to order at 7:06 p.m. And we need a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight.
So move toss.
Thank you, seconder. I'll second. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes. Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes of October the 8th?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, seconder.
Sure.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Were there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, we're going to move then right down to public comment, and I'm going to turn it back over to CO Storoshenko.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the members of the public are now invited to comment on matters related to the agenda. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on React at the bottom of your screen and then click raise hand. And once I have read your name, I'll look for your name and I'll read your name and we'll ask you to unmute yourself and you'll get a pop-up on your screen asking you to unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to please state and spell your name, say your address and the agenda item that you are speaking to. So if anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. All right, and I'll call for a second time. If anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. And Your Worship, there is no one online that wishes to speak. Is there anyone at the hall there that wishes to speak?
No, not this evening.
Wonderful. So
Okay.
that completes the public comment portion of the meeting. So back to you, Your Worship.
Well, thank you. We're going to move on to item number 6, which is staff reports. And we have CIO Monbrequette here, and the first one is around the key performance indicators.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. Good evening, everyone. The first item to speak to tonight is with respect to the quarterly reporting against our annual plan that was developed and adopted by Council in August of 2023. So At the time that we adopted it, we did do a June reporting just to kind of catch up, and then this is the next quarter, September 30th. So we listed all of the key performance indicators in a chart, and we give the kind of the current information. So just to sort of go over some of the highlights of that, the first one, it was around the backfilling program, and we spoke a number of times of trying to, kind of get all the requests in and understand the extent of the work that we need to do by September the 30th. So our recovery director has been working hard with property owners to get all of those requests in. I would say we're largely there. There's maybe a couple of difficult situations that we're still trying to work through to figure out what we are going to do. And so, but again, like trying to end that program so that we can move on to other initiatives. We have a target around homes occupied in the village, and at September 30th, we had 3. We had one commercial building under construction and largely finished. That would be the Chinese Museum. That would be classified as the commercial building. We had 15 residential permits against our target of 20. So we need 5 more permits to go out before the end of the year to meet that target. The next couple of things are related to the investment that we're making in the sewer and the water system. And so we had targeted to spend $1 million of our water grant. So far, we've spent $412,000. And on the sewer grant, we've targeted to spend $200,000 this year. We've spent none so far. We're still working through some of the administrative processes on the front end of that. So hopefully we'll get that done and get some of that money spent. And then there's the various targets around the village infrastructure. And so, that was just to try to stay on track in terms of doing the consultations and, architectural design, procurement, and all that side. We're very early in the process on all of those activities. But I would say at this point, we're pretty much where we expected to be on all of those projects. So that, then we had a couple of other targets around our relationship building, our governance, and our communication. And so those targets are all, again, sort of where we would expect them to be. And we're working hard to try to get to that target achieved by the end of the year. So that's my comments on that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any comments or questions? So can I have a motion, please, to accept this report for information? Councillor Lightfoot, seconder. All those in favor?
Aye.
And carried. And we'll move on to item number 6.1.2, which is the BC Hydro Underground cost estimate.
And I'll just make a couple comments about this, Mayor O'Connor. We've been talking a number of times about, and I know that a previous council considered it, around burying the BC Hydro infrastructure underground in the village. And so through some contact made at UBCM, we've received some information from BC Hydro regarding the kind of I would say it's probably a pretty high level cost, but a cost estimate to bury that infrastructure. Unfortunately, we were requesting information, or we intended to request information about burying the line down the laneway to remove some cross wires that are going to occur on Fraser and Main Street. The quote is for underground the whole village, and so it's much more than we would have ever planned to do. But so we'll need to go back to them and just kind of revisit that. But I did put it on the agenda just to kind of open the discussion and let people know that it's being talked about. Obviously, the underground infrastructure, there's a number of benefits to that. One is electrical security in the event of windstorms, which happen quite often. There is some fire resiliency arguments to be made there. It's general aesthetics and the access for residents so that we don't have the power poles on one side of the street and the lines draping across the street to reach the houses on the other side. Yeah. The idea is that it would come underground from the laneway instead of draping across Fraser Street and Main Street. So this is really just for information at this point. And we will go back and try to get a more refined estimate that aligns with what we were asking, what we would ever intend to do. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So are there any comments or questions?
I do have
Yes,
a question.
Councillor
So thank you very much. Yeah, as you mentioned, I don't think it's exactly what we were hoping to estimate, but barring the feasibility of underground hydro in the alley, I wonder if we could, as a backup, ask to find out if we could get the poles that were in the alley previous to the fire replaced. So at the very least, we don't have the wires across Main and Fraser, because it appears to me as buildings are being built, that it's sort of piecemeal. And so each wire is coming across as they're built. And I'd like to see that commitment from BC Hydro to have something, if not underground, at least a source of electricity down the alley as pre-fire. So for all the reasons CAO Mombercat outlined.
Okay, are there any other comments? So we need a motion to accept this report for information.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
And carried, thank you. Okay. So we will move on to item number 6.1.3, which was a request to discharge covenant.
And this item has come before council before. I think it's been before council twice before in relation to temporary use permits that were being put in place for the activity that's been occurring on the airport lands. And so there is a covenant on those lands in favor of the village of Lytton that requires the portion of the land that was historically an airstrip to remain an airstrip. So the covenant is registered, and when as the land has been bought and sold to various owners, the covenant moves with the land. So the current owner of the land has to abide by that covenant. So previously, when staff was bringing reports for temporary use permits, staff was recommending that we remove the restrictive covenant, and really just from a kind of a clean planning perspective to make sure that we didn't have a restriction there that wasn't necessary or we didn't intend to use. So both times council defeated that motion. The owner of the land has now come forward and requested that we remove the restrictive covenant, and it is in relation to some of the work that there's not some of the uses that they have the temporary use permit for, and they're contracting with external parties. And so the external parties are concerned, about that restrictive covenant and how it might limit their use. So they have come forward and asked if we would consider, again, discharging that restrictive covenant. So I'm bringing that request forward.
So can we have a motion put forward?
Make that motion that, where are we here? That council directs staff to discharge covenant KX 93881.
Have questions and comments?
I'm speaking against the covenant, removing the covenant. Councillor Toss, yeah, thank you. And maybe a question to CAO Mombercat. There was, I believe, in the letter we received another option for a letter to support that.
I think there was an alternative given that, and I think it was in the meantime, could we provide a letter?
As a bridge.
As a bridge indicating that we don't intend to enforce the covenant. So the request was to remove the covenant and in the meantime, provide a letter indicating that we had no intention of enforcing the covenant.
So is that an option without removing the covenant? Could we provide that letter that we do not intend to enforce it and still satisfy the proponent?
I'm not sure if that would satisfy their long-term requirement. It would definitely in the short term.
Right. I would move that we defer this to a future meeting while writing that
So we
letter.
have a motion on.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me.
So I have a question. So if we were to have the covenant removed,
Yes.
what is the time period before that comes into effect? Would it come into effect right when the motion is made? Or is there a process through?
There would be a land title process to remove it. And I think that's where the letter is to bridge that time process. The request for the letter
Yeah.
is intended to bridge that time requirement. I mean, my understanding is that although the covenant is registered on the property, it doesn't permit anyone to land a plane. Like the property is still owned by somebody who controls it. And it doesn't make it a public airstrip in any way. It just is restricting the person's use of the property. Really, the way to keep it open as an airstrip would have been to retain ownership of the property as the village.
Yeah.
So.
Councillor Lightfoot.
But, so at present, the current owners don't intend to use it as an airstrip. But the owners could use it as an airstrip if they liked, they could allow anyone to land on that airstrip currently. If they.
I mean, given all the NAVCAN regulations and everything, you know, there's a lot of regulatory stuff around it, but yes.
So the current use is a temporary use permit. So I'm speaking against the motion because I'm not convinced that in the long term it's beneficial. I'm willing to make a commitment that we wouldn't enforce it during the use of this of their temporary use permit. So I speak against it, but that's all.
Councillor Toss.
Thank you. I'm very much in favor of writing that letter and not enforcing it for the term of the temporary use permit. I do believe that for future use, that it is an important community asset. So again, I'm gonna ask our fellow council to also defeat this, and we can bring it back. I think we have more discussion about perhaps some reciprocal benefits from doing so.
I'd just like to comment. We have seen this brought to us before, and I believe I was in support at that time of removing it. Just because we remove this covenant on this ownership doesn't, and if I'm correct here, doesn't mean that in future somebody could have their own private airstrip in the future. That's my understanding.
Yeah, it wouldn't have any impact on the property going forward.
Right.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions, Councilor McCann?
This is just me personally. I cannot see that ever being a real airport. There will never be a plane that will land there in our lifetime or in the future, perhaps helicopters. Yeah. That kind of air vehicle, but not an airplane. It's not going to be an airstrip that it will ever be used. You would never get it through Transport Canada as an airport. Sorry. It's just not, I don't care if you're a private owner, if you're God, you're not going to get that as an airport. So to me, I don't understand the importance of making it a covenant to be something it could never be. I don't get why we would do that. So I personally will be in support of this because I don't see the point in going down a pathway that leads to nowhere, in my opinion. So that's just where I'm coming from.
Yes, may I counter that argument? Again, going back to future technology, we would never have imagined airplanes 50 years ago doing what they do now either. So helicopters and that sort of provision for future technology and future use may not be exactly that. And I think with remediation, if the land provides for it, then it could be made into an airstrip. I also believe that there's there are reciprocal arrangements that could be made with the proponent that I think we haven't explored that could be beneficial to the village. So I think that should be taken into account.
Are there any other comments?
Well, for myself, I can't see us looking at it as an asset because previous council sold it. So, I mean, it's private property. I would be in favor of removing it.
I guess I would have one more comment is that, you know, I'm very much for development and I hate to think to have something on a piece of property that limits a private property owner's ability to develop. So, are there any other comments or questions? Councillor Lightfoot.
Just in response to Councillor Michelle's comment, the previous council did sell it, but the previous council put the covenant on it.
But again, it's private property.
But the private property's been sold numerous times, with
Doesn't
that
matter.
covenant on it.
I'm not for restricting somebody who's paid money to buy a property.
So, I'm not sure our staff knows the answer to this, but I do believe there's also, easement, access easement for highways to the gravel pit behind, so I'll assume that that is still in place. Like I said, it's not totally relevant to the airstrip, but
I don't know if Corey is on the line. I don't know if she knows that from the previous work she did on the file. Hi, Corey.
Good evening again. It seems to me, if I recall correctly, that yes, there is an easement. I think the nature of a runway and that area that is reserved for that purpose is that it wouldn't have any encumbrance on it, so it wouldn't interrupt the access one way or the other. So I think that we have to look at it from that perspective. I think the letter could certainly state something to that effect, that, you know, nature of a runway is that it remains clear of obstructions, and therefore it doesn't hinder access, whether that be to the highways pit or across the property for whatever temporary uses are occurring there. I think it's a fairly narrow strip, so unless, you know, they want to construct something right on that narrow strip, I think there's a good argument for saying it doesn't really restrict anybody. So there's that would be my perspective.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Thank you. So with this motion, all those in favor? And opposed? Thank you. This motion carries. I would like to make another motion, and I would like to move that staff write a letter to the owner to let them know our response. A seconder? Councillor Lightfoot, all those in favor? Carried. Sorry. Okay.
Who seconded the last, the covenant discharge?
It was
Lightfoot.
moved by, yeah.
Okay, it was Lightfoot. Okay,
Lightfoot.
wonderful, thank you.
Didn't you? Wasn't it?
I think it was Councillor Michelle. that
Oh,
seconded
sorry.
Oh, sorry, okay,
Councillor Toss moved, Councillor Michelle.
Oh, pardon me.
wonderful,
Across the way.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 6.2, and we have CFO Monbriquette here with our financial update.
Mayor O'Connor, this is our September 30th financial update. So 3/4 of the year has gone by. We have, as we did in previous updates, we still have a number of kind of timing issues where some of the expenses are budgeted across the entire year. We're only 3/4 of the way through. But what I've tried to do in the report is highlight some of the variances in addition to that type of timing variance. So, on the revenue side, just to briefly go to the relevant differences. We had initially budgeted for a small communities grant of $344,000. It came in at $408,000. So an extra kind of $60,000 there on the revenue side. In the sale of services, that's made up of a number of different things, but we did have, as we discussed previously, we did have a deposit that had been sitting in a lawyer's trust account returned to us this year. And so that's just reported as miscellaneous revenue. So that of course wasn't budgeted. We do have a budget shortfall in the fire protection budget because we had budgeted to assist BC Wildfire as we had in previous seasons, and we get financial compensation for that. And we weren't required to do that this summer. So in some ways that's a good thing, but it has a budget impact for us as well. Our building permit fees are ahead of budget for the year, so that's encouraging. And we had about $17,000 in bulk water and gray water dumping revenues that have been recouped from local businesses that are using our systems. So that's a positive. Really, the other big one, of course, is that we did receive a check from our insurance corporation for the cash value of our physical buildings that were lost in the fire. So this is just kind of the first step in the insurance process for the buildings. All of the buildings are still eligible to be bumped up to replacement value should they be replaced. So what they were trying to do is kind of get some cash into our hand. We're definitely going to get at least the cash value. So they've given us that. And now as we replace buildings, we'll be claiming the difference between the cash value and the replacement value. So that will come sort of one at a time. Just kind of turning quickly to the expenses. There's not a lot of, there weren't a lot of surprise expenses that we weren't expecting. It's more things that we had provided for that we haven't spent. We tend to take a conservative approach to our budgeting just to make sure that we do have funds should costs arise. We have included in our budget $20,000 for election expenses, and the idea being you budget $20,000 a year. The year that you have an election, you actually have some money built up to pay for it because they're very expensive to run, and we wouldn't be able to take it out of 1 year's property taxes. So we'll continue to do that and put it aside so that we have it when it comes time for the election. We did also, thinking about when this was prepared, we did also include $45,000 for some external accounting help, which we just haven't needed. We've got the in-house team now; it's up to speed and is able to handle our requirements. There were some provisions in the fire department budget to replace some turnout gear. Some of that has occurred, but not all of it. We do have funding in there for the temporary fire hall upgrades. There's still some winterizing to be done, so I anticipate that a lot of this will be spent by the end of the year. It's just not something that we've gotten to. The Public Works Department has now prioritized replacing the small tools and equipment that were lost in the fire and their supply stock, so that when we need a particular supply item for the water monitoring, we're not waiting for somebody to bring it from Kamloops. We need to keep things on hand here because very little can be delivered next day. On the recovery expenses side, there's actually not a lot of change from the last report. Some of, as we spoke before, a lot of those bigger grants are pretty much spent. The $23.5 million for the remediation, debris removal, and archaeology, that's all spent, reported, it's finalized. We do have still a little bit of money left from our municipal affairs grant that was given to us, $6.26 million. We have about $1 million left in that, and that's to go towards things like, we bought the dump truck with that and some of the other big equipment that wasn't. We did get ICBC insurance for our truck, but it was quite old, so the insurance didn't really help. So they've helped bridge the gap on a number of those expenditures, which has been very, very helpful because those things are required and they're expensive. The $17.3 million, of course, is another agenda item tonight. We report on that monthly. We're up at the end of September 30th. We've spent $6.8 million of it. $17.5 million. And like I said earlier, we're looking to wrap up that backfilling piece so that then we can make plans for the kind of the remainder that's left to be spent. And those are my comments on the financial update.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions, comments for? Thank you, Member Cat. No, so can we have a motion to accept the financial update report for information? Councillor Lightfoot, seconder. Can all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 6.2.2, which is monthly reporting.
Yeah, I'm just taking advantage of the fact that I'm here in person. I'm getting everything done, right? So thank you again, Mayor O'Connor. This is our financial report, grant reporting for the $17.5 million. Our contribution agreement with the MCR requires us to present to council each month the items that we're going to claim and get their approval to do so. So this would be the September expenses just for the 1 month. We have a total expenses of $199,000. $77,000 of that is what we call recovery support related to primarily contractors and staffing. We do have in here, I just wanted to point out for council, Lytton First Nation amount of $109,000. This is an old amount that's been hanging around. It was bounced back and forth between organizations. And this is the excavation work that was done by Matt Kahn on 666 Main Street. So we, the village, were responsible for the excavation piece. And then the provincial government worked directly with local First Nations on the archaeology and some of the other parts. So it wasn't clear who was supposed to pay this, so it did go around a little bit. Lytton First Nation ended up paying it to Macron because they were continuing to do work with them, and then brought the bill forward to us, and so we paid them. So it's not a new item,
Does that
and it's good to get it cleared up.
Okay, questions and comments? Councillor Chomsky?
Yeah, I should write it down before I forgot. Does that 109,000 include archaeology? No,
No,
just the remediation.
Yeah.
What is the difference from like I think the mean of properties in the village to have the debris removed was around 60,000 per property? Why the discrepancy for this property?
To be honest, I can't really answer that question. We weren't really directing the work. We were really just kind of providing the supplier. Because at that time, in December time period, MAPCON was still actively doing work for us. And so we were asked if we could kind of redirect them for a few weeks. And so we did. But didn't really have a very clear line of sight into what exactly was going on, what kind of exact work they were doing. So I can't really answer that.
Just to dovetail on that, so it was for debris removal. Did it also include the backfilling of it?
No, that property's not been
Hasn't been
backfilled.
done yet. Okay.
But I do think there was some foundation removal done there as well.
And hazardous waste was found, and so that might have upped the price.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councillor Lightfoot.
And I'm not sure that you can answer this, but I guess we can anticipate that it will cost us more money to backfill, or
Yes.
now is the village responsible for completing that work on that lot?
Not at this time, we're not. That property is still being kind of managed, controlled by the province in association with the local First Nation. And so we're not involved. And we've said when it's clear for us to be involved, let us know. Otherwise, we're focusing on other things.
Just earlier in your report, you were talking about how we were hoping to finish up that type of work
Mhm.
in the near future.
Mhm.
But we can anticipate an expense to complete that work once those other agencies give direction.
I would expect, yes. I would say this is one of the ones I referred to as, kind of one of the tricky ones.
Okay.
Yeah, we will work with the owner to prepare the property, according to what they request. We will do that. Right this time, like I said, we're just kind of waiting for the go ahead and staying out of the way. We're trying to.
Are there any other questions? No, so
That's the only comment I can say is that is a very valuable lot, given the resources that have been required to remediate it. And hopefully it can be completed soon so it can be useful to the owner or for whatever purposes they.
okay, so can we have a motion, please, to receive this report for information?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor McCann?
Sorry, this one is a different motion. This is, the motion is to.
For the grant.
Oh, I apologize. I am off on my, so we have a two-part motion here. So we have a recommended motion. Who would like to put that forward? This is to submit to the provincial government. Councillor Lightfoot, thank you.
Send it in.
And a seconder?
Sure, I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
It's you.
I had the other one checked off too, but oh well. Okay, so we're on to item number 6.2.3, which is AEW change order.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. This report is with respect to a change order that initially we had requested from AEW back when the backfilling process had started. There was some back and forth. The change order was never forthcoming. We've recently been working with AEW to reconcile some accounts and finalize a few things, and it was noted, this is still outstanding. So this change order covers two or three, actually three kind of buckets. Then one of them is the backfilling process, which started in July of 2023. So this is AEW worked back to that point. It includes the public works projects that have been happening over the last probably 9 months, installation of different things and repair works that have been going on. And it also includes the reporting requirements that fall under the archaeology permits, of which the Village of Lytton is the proponent. And so as the proponent, it is our responsibility to ensure that our contractor provides the appropriate reporting to the archaeology branch. There is daily, monthly, and annual reporting. So this is the annual report for 2024. They start compiling it now and kind of finalize it early in the new year. So those three components are included in this change order for $988,000. I will say that the majority of that money has already been invoiced and paid by the village. So this isn't really an additional expense. It's kind of a little bit of cleaning up the paperwork and approving the expense to do the reporting that we are obligated to do. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
That council authorize a change order. I guess as written.
All right, second.
Sure, I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Mhm.
And carried. Okay. Thank you for your reports. Moving on to item number 7, which is yes, we have a 2-part motion there that we put forward.
Yeah.
Are they 2 separate motions?
No, it was.
No,
a
it's one
two-part
motion, hasn't it? Yeah.
That and. Part.
Okay.
To receive it and then
To receive it and then
authorize.
to submit.
Thank you.
Change order. All right, we'll move on to item number 7, which is bylaws, which are the 2 that we heard in the hearing earlier this evening. So we have the bylaw amendment, community plan amendment bylaw number 760, 2024, and we are looking for a motion to give it 3rd reading. Would like to put that forward.
So move Lightfoot.
And seconder. Plus, thank you. And are there any questions or comments? No? All those in favor? Carried. So we'll move that one forward. And then Village of Lytton zoning amendment bylaw 761, 2024. And a motion, please.
Sure, I'll make
Councillor-
that motion.
Thank you, Councillor McCann, and seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you, and we're moving this one to 3rd reading as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
And carried. Good. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, which is correspondence. And we have some correspondence, sometimes we don't, but the first one is a correspondence for action. And we've had a request from the Remembrance Day powwow, which is happening November 8th, 9th, and 10th. We all received the letter here, and it is requesting some donations from the village. And Councillor Lightfoot.
I'd like to make a motion that we support the annual powwow, the contribution of $1,000 that would be taken from the Interior Community Fund. That fund was established for community healthy activities, and the powwow is a really beneficial annual event. The volunteers work hard, and many families partake in it. So I think it would be fitting to go.
So the motion is to donate $1,000 and taken from the community fund. Seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Now, are there any questions or comments regarding that?
Sorry, I spoke to it when I made
Yes,
the
you did.
motion.
I'll just add one comment.
Yes, yes.
I just from coming from the perspective of the River Festival and the fact that the River Festival asked for support from the council. And to me, these 2 activities are very similar. and that they involve the whole community, they're a benefit to the whole community, and that I appreciate the opportunity to have funds to support the Powell. So it's not like just anybody. It's something that fits the criteria for me.
So I just want to clarify, Councillor Light, but you referred to the community fund, the healthy initiatives. Are you referring to the health fund from the community fund? Or like we have the three different funds?
I have to say, I'm not really clear on which particular fund it is, but it's the larger fund. I think it was, the community received that endowment.
Yeah.
When the bypass from the hospital, highway access was made, and it was around 160,000 at the time. So it's the, bigger grant that I think we received 5,000 or 6,000 a year.
Perfect.
Good, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Carried. Our second piece of correspondence came from Canada Community Building Fund, BC Community Works Fund payment. And that was for information. We all received the letter, which was good news. And then item number 2, which is we have a recommended motion here to receive this correspondence from UBCM Councillor Trish Mandeo.
So rooftops.
Thank you, seconder.
Sure.
And were there any comments or questions about this? That's just good news. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move on then to reports. I don't have a lot to report. I did want to say that I hope that everyone had a restful and long weekend on Thanksgiving weekend. Eating too much turkey if you did. October 17th, I attended a TNRD meeting in Kamloops. We all know that the provincial election happened this past weekend, and I'm looking forward to meeting our new MLA and bringing them up to speed on our rebuild in our community and getting in touch with them. Last week marked 2 years since this council was elected. And really? Unbelievable that we are halfway through our term. Yeah, where is the time gone? And of course, I just want to also say that yesterday and this morning, it was just so great to be able to formally revisit our priorities that we had set and look forward to this next half of our term, the next 2 years, and working through those. So yeah, thank you. That's it for mine. Oh, I guess last thing I should say that just to let people know, we're going to be moving the November 12th council meeting. We're going to be moving it up a week to November the 5th. Okay, so Councillor, let's see who's next. Councillor Thomas, yes.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I do not have much to report. I was not at the last meeting from family obligations. So it's been a while since I've reported. I had a chamber meeting I attended on October 3rd as the council liaison. And again, my congratulations go out to LFN for all of their work around, the Yakum Food Hub, the Timber Mart. They're looking into rental equipment business and so on and so forth. Talk of a temporary RV park, food hub, close to Guisap actually. So yeah, there's a lot going on with LFN, and I'm really impressed with all of their work and their successful initiatives. So congratulations to them, and the chamber as well is working hard to navigate and help residents with Pacific Hand funding, and also is working on a pamphlet to encourage businesses to come to Lytton. So they've got some work going on there behind the scenes, which is really encouraging, and they've been great. So yeah, October 6th, congratulations to Tony Luck for having won the election. I think they were all fantastic candidates, and the debate was interesting. I did the timekeeping, and we've just returned from a strategic planning workshop with staff, which I thought was incredibly useful. And it was great to spend some face time with some staff that are not local. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCann.
Oh. Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I have been having a good time, haha. Anyway, October 9th, 10th, and 11th. I've been inspecting resorts. I've been doing my due diligence as a council member and inspecting various resorts around the province. Just come back to let you know how they all are. So on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, I went to Paradigm Sustainable Building Summit at Sparkling Hills Resort near Vernon on behalf of the village at the request of the recovery director, Don Wong. So there was no expense to the village for this little junket of mine. But it was very interesting. I am quite intrigued by building stuff and looking at different ways of building and looking at the different options available for people, and the people at the Paradigm Construction are an interesting group. They do want to spend more time in Lytton if they're welcome. And I said, well, we'll see what happens next for them. I don't know what that will be. But and Sparkling Hills is a beautiful place. If you ever want to go, hey, it's real nice. Then on the 14th, I did come to the hall here for the Thanksgiving potluck. And there were, I don't know, it wasn't a lot of people, but it was a very friendly little crowd that put together a lunch and had lunch together. And thanks to Marie Heaster for bringing the turkey casserole. I think everybody appreciated it. The 16th, I attended the Fire Smart Committee meeting. We missed you. Yeah. Yeah, but you'll get the minutes, I'm sure. There's stuff going on there. It looks like we're moving ahead with that committee to do the assessment, the property assessment for one of our local residents to see what can be done on her property to make it more fire smart. And then we'll have a group come in and work with the Fire Smart Committee to achieve some of those directions so that she'll get a checklist of things to do that will make her property more fire smart. And then between the scouts and the local Fire Smart team, we'll have a work day and try and get some of that done for her. So that's kind of nice to see moving ahead. On the 17th, I met with Don Wong and Principal Murky regarding the pool subcommittee and just kind of doing an update there and making contact and seeing where things are moving as far as that subcommittee is concerned. On the 19th, I went and voted and got to see how that whole process works now. And as everyone else said, we have a new MLA. We'll see if we get to meet him. On October, I don't know what's going to happen there. Who knows, right? 21st and 22nd, which was yesterday and today, I once again, with everyone else, participated in our retreat planning session at Harrison Hot Springs Resort. Yet another wonderful resort. The weather cooperated. It's more outdoorsy than the other one, to tell you the truth. But anyway, so my biggest takeaway from the recent events that I've been involved in on behalf of the Lytton residents is an even greater respect for both my fellow council members and the staff who have all committed to support the rebuilding of our village. We all continue to learn from each other as we find ways to keep moving forward. And it's given me renewed energy to continue this work. So thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle.
So this week I attended the strategic planning with the rest of the council and staff. And I think it was well worth the time and took a lot away from it in a short time period. And just looking forward to working through the next 2 years of our term.
Thank you. Councillor Lightfoot.
Not a lot to report, other than I'll echo my fellow councillors' comments about our strategic planning. It's good to give us a better footing to move ahead, and I think it's clear on our limitations and our aspirations at this point. So it's really good.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the open meeting. And can I please, no, we don't have, yes, we need a motion to move into closed meeting.
So moved, Fox.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Carried. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, CEO Storchenko.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. So that concludes the public portion of the regular council meeting of October 22nd, 2024. We ask that the public and staff please remove yourself from the meeting as we go into a closed session. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting and have a wonderful night. I invite council to take a short recess while I reset the meeting to closed.
Great, thank you. Everybody's out.